At this point, Jesse stepped out of the line, walked forward a few steps, and said, "Here we go again." Using his right hand, he retrieved his Glock 26 pistol from the holster on his hip, turned to his left, aimed the pistol at Maurica, and fired one time.
Well, it looks like we finally found Alec Baldwin's firearm trainer for the movie Rust. Well, my original plan was to go back and do some original BJJ content, but this story came up and I just couldn't pass it up because once again, this channel isn't just about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it's about self-defense in general. And a big part of that is firearms. And if you're into firearms, you have to have firearm safety. So I am no firearm expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have trained with guys that are high speed and I've trained for firearm certification before. One thing you have to keep in mind with firearms, one of the number one rules is you treat every weapon like it's a live and loaded weapon, and you don't point it at anything that you don't want to destroy. That's even me. I've got one of those bug assault guns. The only thing I point that at is the bugs I want to shoot. I don't even flag my dogs with that thing. And without any further ado, let's get into this video with Dr. Grande.
Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Maurica Manyan and Jesse Porter. First, I'll look at the background of this case, including the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Maurica Alex Manyan was born on February 16, 1997, and was raised in Beltsville, Maryland. This is just north of Washington, D.C. As an adult, Maurica worked as a special police officer in the D.C. Library Public Safety System.
So this is one thing I had to look up, is a special police officer, at least in the case of DC, is basically a actual law enforcement person that has arrest capability in an area, but they have a very defined area. So in this case, I believe she was a special police officer for the library or library system in DC. If you know a little bit more about this, leave a note in the comments and write on some details on what a special officer is in this case, or what it is in your area. But let's get back to it.
She had one son who she lived with in Indian Head, Maryland, which is just south of D.C. On August 4, 2022,
man, that's such a shame,
Maurica
honestly.
made her way to the Anacostia Neighborhood Library on Good Hope Road, southeast in Washington, D.C. She was there, along with 3 other special police officers, to receive training on how to use a baton and handcuffs. A 58-year-old man named Jesse Porter had been hired as a private contractor by the library special police to conduct the training. He was a retired lieutenant who had served for 33 years with the Metropolitan Police Department.
So real quick with this, look, I've worked with a lot of law enforcement over the years and a lot of military as well, right? Military police. One of the things that come in is generally most of these guys and girls, they care about their job, they're professional, and they want to make an impact. But not everybody operates at the same speed, at the same, gear. With 33 years of experience, you'd expect for him to have a lot better judgment than what you're going to find out here in a second. When he said 33 years of experience and then the actions that he showed on this, I mean, it's absolutely dumbfounded. It's unbelievable, right? I've never seen anything like it before.
He owned his own company called Porter Consulting and Expert Tactical Training. Jesse had an employee named Byron who assisted him with the training.
And I hate to stop it again, but one thing to keep in mind with these expert titles, right, is being a law enforcement officer for 33 years does not necessarily mean that you are an expert. Just like in the military, you have some people that are on the front lines and you have some people that are in the kitchen. So just because they have experience in the military or law enforcement does not mean that you need to trust this individual with your safety and your future. That's why vetting is so important before getting involved with these courses.
You can shoot it single action. That's like trigger pull.
Okay, I'm the only one in this room professional enough that I know of to carry this Glock 40.
Now let's go.
He was a current police officer with the Metropolitan Police. A D.C. Public Library supervisory officer was also on site. His name was Anthony. The training session started at 8 a.m. on the lower floor of the library. The 4 trainees watched a PowerPoint presentation. During the training, Jesse Porter had a Glock 26 9mm pistol in a holster on his right hip. During the interactive portion of the training, the trainees put on body armor and started the physical component. They practiced baton techniques on a large sandbag before moving to handcuffing techniques. When the training was over, The trainees removed their body armor and other training equipment and completed paperwork. At this point, the decision was made to get a photograph of the trainees with the instructors. As they were preparing for the photograph, Maurica could be seen adjusting her hair. Allegedly, Jesse witnessed this and referred to Maurica as Rihanna, presumably as a way of making fun of her for being interested in her appearance. The trainees posed in a line together with one trainer on each end as Anthony prepared to take the picture. Byron was standing all the way to the left of the line, Jesse was standing all the way to the right, and Maurica was the second person from the left, so she was standing just to the right of Byron. At this point, Maurica realized that she had her mask on. She removed it from her face, turned to the right, and appeared to attempt to put it in her right pocket. She said something like she wasn't ready. One of her fellow trainees jokingly said, "She's never ready." At this point, Jesse stepped out of the line, walked forward a few steps, and said, "Here we go again."
Brace yourself.
Using his right
what you're about
hand,
to see right
he
here.
retrieved his Glock 26 pistol
This is
from the
crazy.
holster on his hip, turned to his left, aimed the pistol at Maurica, and fired one time. The bullet struck Maurica in the chest, and she fell to the floor, crying in agony. Immediately after the shooting, the remaining people in the room scattered, perhaps wondering if Jesse was going to shoot them next. Like, what was this guy doing? Why did he just pull out his gun and shoot a trainee? Jesse appeared to be distraught. He moved around frantically and tried to help Maurica. He said, "I thought I had my training gun. Why did I do this? Is she okay?" The answer to his question was no. 25-year-old Maurica Manyan died not long after being shot.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. Long and short of it is they found him guilty of manslaughter, and I think his jail sentence ended up being about 2 years. But let's break this down real quick. Look, I'm not going to hold you. Honestly, this is one of the most grievous forms of firearm training and firearm safety that I've ever seen. You can tell by the way this thing is set up, this was not organized. If you're doing a training event and there's a possibility of live firearms, you should be having somebody at the door, at the gate, and they've got a metal detector and they're wanting people down because accidents happen. If you forget you have a round on you, and not only that, once you're setting up and you're doing your training involving firearms, you should be having double and triple checks, right, by redundant parties, by 2, 3, up to 4 people if needed, to make sure that there are no live rounds in that firearm. Like I said, I don't even hang my hat as being a firearm kind of guy. I love them. I train with them some. But the reality is, this is basic common sense. And the other thing here, too, is, this looks like to be about 15, 20 seconds. They're running around. Everybody's confused. He's surprised. He's holding his head like Macaulay Culkin. But where is the emergency care? Where's the urgent response? Right? Where's the trauma kit? There's no trying to stop the bleeding. There's no quick clot. Right? There's just, utter chaos, utter surprise. And I don't know, maybe the video got cut short and there was a little bit of that involved. It did not even seem like they had medical supplies nearby. So now we've got a little kid that's being raised up without a mother because somebody didn't have the common sense to warn people when they came in and to double and triple check for all the firearms to make sure that they were not live. So this could have easily been prevented by not only having those basic safety precautions in mind, but also by not acting like a 5-year-old child and pointing a firearm at somebody. Look, so was it childish for her to wait till the photo was about to be taken and then take off her mask? It was just an accident, right? She forgot the mask was on at the time. But to take a firearm out, even if you thought it was a toy or you thought it was a replica, you thought it wasn't live, and to point it at somebody is the pinnacle of stupidity. So once again, this guy got off fairly light. He got off of 2 years, probably because he was a former law enforcement officer. 7 years even, which was the high end of his sentencing, would have been too good for him. To take somebody off of this planet, to take somebody off of the census because you wanted to play the tough guy role and point a firearm at somebody that's in your trust, that's in your care, absolutely ridiculous, absolutely unacceptable behavior. I think they should have threw the book at this guy as an example for all firearm trainers. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm in a bad mood, whatever it is, but if you want to, if you're like, no, it makes perfect sense. You should be able to point guns at people and then pull the trigger, then be surprised when they get shot. Let me know what you think in the comments.